In today's video, I'm going to review Ghost at the Gallows by Spirit Adrift, released on August 18th, 2023 through Century Media Records. This is a pretty cool band. This is also one of the first underground metal bands that I reviewed on this channel. That was for their 2020 album called Enlightened in Eternity. I think that video only got like 5 views at the time, and last time I checked, I think it had like 15 views, but that doesn't matter. I really like this band. And stick around to the end of the video. I'm going to be talking about some other metal albums that were released this weekend and my initial thoughts. So the first time I listened to Spirit Adrift, I went into it with a lot of apprehension because I thought it was going to be a doom band, as that's how they are listed on the Metal Archives page. But when you listen to them, I don't really think they fit in that category. The songs are not very slow. I remember that last album had this one song at the end that was like really slow, but that was the exception to the rule. I would say this is one of those bands that is recapturing the traditional heavy metal of the late 70s and 80s. I think similar to bands like Haunt and Skullfist. The band was formed by Nate Garrett, and they've been around since 2015. They've had a pretty large discography since then, considering that bands like Judas Priest have only released like one album in that time period. So this album continues with the sounds that they had on 2020's Enlightened in Eternity. That last album was about 3 years ago, but since then they have been releasing some stuff to hold us off in the meantime. They released an EP in 2021 called Forge Your Future, which was only 3 songs, pretty cool nonetheless. Then they released another EP in 2022 called 20 Centuries Gone, which had 2 new songs and a bunch of covers from bands like Typo Negative, Pantera, Metallica, Thin Lizzy, ZZ Top, and Lynyrd Skynyrd. And now they have a new album with 8 new songs. The album's main focus is death and tragedy, something that the metal world has seen a lot in the past few years. Few examples being the death of Black Dahlia Murders of Trevor Stunad and Power Trip's Riley Gale. Let me read a quote from Nate Garrett. He says, watching the mental health challenges that my friends couldn't make it through in a time became infused into the spirit of this record. He later says, I'm too fucking stubborn for therapy, so I write songs. And that's something that's very true. Music is a good replacement for therapy, and it's a lot cheaper. So let me talk about the rest of the band. We have drummer Michael Ariano, bassist Sonny DiCarlo, and lead guitarist Tom Draper. And let's get into the songs right now. Gifford to the River starts with an acoustic intro, then it takes off with a faster rhythm. The song reminds me of classic heavy metal, or even the band like Witch Hazel, which I reviewed not too long ago. The vocals are sludgy. They remind me of the band Mastodon. The song has some great heavy metal guitar riffs, and they also do some tremolo picking that makes things interesting. Actually, that tremolo picking reminds me of like Amon Amarth or other like melodic death metal bands. That kind of goes against their doom metal description. Barn Burner was one of the singles, and the opening guitar riff reminds me of Wasted Years by Iron Maiden, but the song itself is completely different. The song has a sludgy guitar sound with some elements of southern rock. They mentioned Funeral Pyre in the lyrics. I think that's reminding me of like Black Sabbath, or I guess they're paying homage to them, I will assume. But the song has some great riffs. At the 2-minute and 15-second mark, they play this like heavy Metallica style riff. So here's a little clip of that. So I thought that was pretty cool. Barn Burner is a really great song. Hangman's Revenge is a fast and heavy song. It reminds me of Kill 'Em All era Metallica. The song has a fast rhythm and some great guitar riffs. The drumming is very good as well. I also hear some groove metal in their sound. Maybe like Pantera. There's a slow part in the song that sounds more like they have a Black Sabbath influence, but that's a cool song. These Two Hands has a very soft intro with acoustic guitars and softer singing. It also reminded me of Planet Caravan, or there's another song like A Room with a View by Death Angel. That one, if you remember that one, that's definitely a classic. The song eventually gets heavier. It gets like towards the end, they bring in like the big electric guitars and drums. They still keep the slow pace, but I like how the song builds up to something greater. By the end of the song, it starts to sound like many of the others, but with some awesome drum fills. They do this in all under 6 minutes, so it's just a great song. Death Won't Stop Me is one of the doomier songs. It actually reminds me of like Load era Metallica. I know I keep making these Metallica comparisons, but that's what I hear. I really like the slow and chugging guitar riffs of the song as well as the melody. Just a really good song. I Shall Return is a cool song. It kind of reminds me of Over the Mountain by Ozzy Osbourne. Has that classic heavy metal guitar riff. And this is one of the more melodic songs with awesome guitar work and incredible drumming. Siren of the South has some heavy guitar riffs, played in a staccato fashion and followed up with some cool sludgy riffs. There's also a part that reminded me a little bit of like Megadeth. There was a riff, I think it's more like In My Darkest Hour, that kind of riff. And the band really knows how to show their influences without like sounding like they're copying them. Some parts of the song are very melodic as well. You think the song actually ends at 4.5 minutes, but then they play this soft acoustic interlude and then it goes into more like a heavy metal, like a thrash metal style guitar riffs with some melodic soloing. Ghost at the Gallows is the final song and one of the longer ones. They started and ending this album with like their longest song. So this one kind of chugs along. I wouldn't call it doom metal, maybe closer to classic doom like Candlemass, but the riffs are super heavy and chunky. They also sprinkle in these softer riffs to keep things interesting. As the song progresses, it gets like very soft and atmospheric with this dreamy ambiance. They play some melodic leads over the softer section, and then the song like seems to end abruptly. It almost like leaves you wanting more. So that's all. It's a great album. They don't really fit the doom label they've been given, and that's a good thing. Maybe their earlier albums were more doom metal. I haven't listened to all of them, but I like this band. I hope they continue with the sound. I hope they make more albums. My score is a 9 out of 10. Let me know in the comments what you thought. And don't leave yet. Here's the bonus. Let's talk about some of the other albums I listened to. I may or may not have time to do full reviews, but here are my initial thoughts on them. So the first one is Orbit Culture with the new album Descent. It was a very heavy and brutal album. It's one of those albums that takes off like a rocket from start to finish. I thought of this band as being more of like a modern type of metal band with a lot of heavy guitar riffs on the low end. Songs were very complex. The vocals were very brutal, except for the last song. And on that song, they had like cleaner vocals and more atmospheric sections. But it was a pretty good album. And then the other one is Next Is Here for None by Warman. And it sounds like a lot of those like Swedish melodic death metal bands out there. I would say they sound closest to Children of Bodom, especially like their later albums. But they also sound like maybe like Dark Tranquillity or Amorphous. Type of band that uses keyboards and guitars, and both instruments are like in the forefront of the sound. Nonetheless, the music is very heavy, generally moves at a fast pace. There are a lot of melodic guitar riffs, and the vocals are mostly harsh vocals. I don't think I heard any clean vocals on the album. But if you like any of the bands I mentioned above, check out this band, and that's all. So my next full review will be for the new Horrendous album, and in that video I'll probably like do a couple more like bonus like reviews at the end like I did with this one. So here's that Spirit Adrift review I was talking about from 3 years ago. It's right here. Just watch this video next because it only has like 15 views, and I want to get a couple more, or don't watch it because it's actually not really good. I didn't know what I was doing back then. But if you want to watch it, okay, it will be cool. But anyway, I will see you in the next one.